Welcome to Spoiled Rotten Podcast. I'm Arthur Woods, and tonight we're going to talk about time. Not just any time, but a lot of time. How many things in your life have changed in the last 10 years? Are you driving the same car? Have you updated your computer? Have you updated your car warranty? We're always updating. I updated apps every 5 minutes. Things are always being updated in today's world. So think about how many things got updated in the last 10 years. Probably a lot. How many things even behaved the same way 10 years ago from now? Or now from 10 years ago? A lot of things have changed. Kirby Smart came to Georgia about 10 years ago. He'll be working on his 11th season coming up. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's a long time to be a football coach at one place. How many times has Kirby Smart had to adapt in those 10 years? Well, the truth of the matter is he probably hasn't really had to adapt that much. Part of that's because he has a good overall scheme of how to build a football team. So that really fundamentally doesn't change. You need good players. Now, which good players you need the most does change in 10 years. And we will talk about that. But all the great ones, Bryant, Urban Meyer, to name one or two, Nick Saban, to name another one. Great coaches that coached more than 11 years. I don't know about Meyer. But to even coach 11 years in the same sport, especially at the same place, you're going to have to pivot along the way. All those great ones had to pivot. And I mean pivot in almost 180 degrees overnight. Bryant won most of his championships after he pivoted in 69 or whatever year it was, and went to the wishbone and won a lot of titles because he caught up with the times. Wishbone was winning, and the Bear decided to do it, and he won too. He didn't get buried in history because he pivoted. Urban Meyer pivoted. Nick Saban pivoted dramatically. He went from the game managing quarterbacks to realizing he had to have the playmaker who could run, throw, do it all, quick release. He had to throw the football downfield. He had to score points. And his defense just had to hang on. So maybe it's time for Kirby Smart to make a pivot. Not saying not have defense, not saying not have anything or have this or that. I'm saying it's time for him to pivot on a very fundamental way he plays football. It's time to play football more like the three champions of the past 3 years. Or you could even go back to playing it like you did the last time you won a title. That would be a pivot, by the way, because you're not playing the same way you did then. Your offense doesn't look like the same universe as what we had in 22. It's not the same product. We don't do the same things, and it's time to pivot. Fortunately for Kirby Smart, he could pivot back to something he had already done 3 years ago. But he's stubborn, and stubbornness will definitely not favor the one who must pivot. Dabo Swinney is an example of one who did not pivot. He was on top of the world at a certain time, and now he's not. He's still at the same place. And they're not at the top of the world anymore either, because they hitched their wagon to Dabo, and Dabo let them down. Because Dabo either did not know how to pivot or wasn't willing to consider the prospect. That's the worst kind. That's the worst kind, by the way. Some people know they need to pivot, and they just can't quite figure it out. You got to feel like coaches like Billy Napier probably felt that way while they were losing in Florida, or when he got the job at Florida. Maybe I should pivot to something different than what I did, where he came from, and this little nickname of Sunbelt Billy. When he pivoted to Florida, he failed to pivot anything else. So being able to pivot, funny sounding word, but being able to pivot is essential for long-term success because things simply change. Sometimes they change a lot and they change quickly as well. So when it changes a lot and it changes quick, the non-pivoting one will be left behind. That's just the way it is. Georgia's at a point, I've been saying it for 2-3 years, they're at a crossroads. They're at a crossroads, and they are sitting at that crossroads to the point that they should probably get a loitering charge. They've been at the crossroads so long. They got to make a decision. It looks like they made a decision, but they should have turned around and went the other direction. So in Georgia's case, it's not just a pivot, it's a retreat and then a pivot. Retreat? We don't retreat, we're dogs. Well, when you've gone the wrong direction, you need to retreat. If you've gone the wrong direction, you turn around. Figure out where you want to go, figure out how to get there. But if you don't know you're on the wrong path, keep going full speed ahead, you're just getting worse off the path. That's what Georgia is. What are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Look where we're at. We haven't won a playoff game in 3 years. We're not going to. Doing the things we're doing. We're not doing the things that you would expect to win a playoff game. What we're doing is the way we would have done it in the whole existence of Georgia is that sometimes the freezing rain mixed with the Arctic blast and you get some snow or something like that. But the point is, there's times when you have to just pivot and change what you're doing because the game has changed to the point that you can't continue the way you've been doing it. In Georgia last year was a team that people could study for a long time because it was a very strange football team. Had all the star power you would need to win a national title. But the way they played football, they didn't use a lot of their talent. And they did have some examples from Gunnar Stockton of being, determined, dogged, and all that. But we could have been simply very, very good if Gunnar had different skills, or if he wasn't the quarterback and somebody who already had the skills was. If we called games with intent to score instead of kill clock for halves of the time, we might not have lost games by 3 points. We might not have lost a lot of games we did lose. And we didn't lose them by much. Scoring points is essential in college football. You have to be able to put points on the board. You should know that. That's why they keep up with it. That's why they decide that's who wins. They don't have, the winner isn't the guy that had the most determination. It's the guy that got the most points. And Georgia last year failed to capitalize, not last 3 years, failed to capitalize on scoring opportunities probably more than any team in the country. Yeah, we didn't score a lot in the first half. Well, Iowa doesn't score a lot in the first half, and sometimes they don't score a lot in the second half either. They just don't score a lot. Georgia isn't that kind of team. They're the kind of team that can score, even though they, on paper, you wonder how they do it. Quarterback can only throw to one side of the field, sidearm, can't read defenses, got a questionable arm. But he makes enough big explosive plays even with those limitations that they won games and scored points in a half. Popped a lot of points in the half. Set records for that. Can't do it in the first half. Can't do it in the first quarter. Georgia's got to score points. Now, in those droughts, we were making plays and, getting yardage, but we were fizzle when it counted. So it's just time to make a pivot. In Kirby's case, it's a pivot of he's going to have to change his offensive scheme. What he's trying to do is not going to work. Mario Cristobal proved it won't work. Wasting a half so you can have a good half later is just stupid. You can't make any sense out of that. But that's what Bobo says that's his plan. To fiddle and faddle, and then in the fourth, we can do something else. there's more to it than that. It has to be. But for whatever reason, Georgia's got to start getting points when they're available and when they're likely. We've got to get them, and we've got to stop not getting them.